What we gonna do now is go back.
This ain't back in the days, but you don't hear me though.
Everybody look what's going down.
Changes.
For the times they are a-changing.
Oh, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are a bit sporadic, but we're always on point and always bringing you the facts. Breaking you down with truth, building you up with facts, and sending you out with laughter. Eric Naduchin, Aaron Matlock, The Generation Gap. Once again, we're going to try and make this a more regular thing. I know we say that every time we broadcast, podcast, multicast, but the point is, we're here now, and we're here to deconstruct, reconstruct, and just give our wonderful opinions and suggestions about our country and our world right here at The Generation Gap. Probably going to find us on YouTube. Always check out the Facebook Generation Gap Radio. Easy way to find us. And you can always contact us at generationgapradio@gmail.com. Eric, how are you, sir?
Generation Gap in the house. Just when you think it's safe, we're always coming back. We're never going down. They can cut our cords. They can cut our internet like Julian Assange, but we're going to find a way to get on the air and make things happen. Aaron Matlock, I am pumped up. We just had the last debate last night. Lots of nonsense. It's a TV show is what it is. It's all farce. It's all crazy. We're going to get into all of it. There's so much stuff going on in the world that we have to cover. We have to get on. And now that we're broadcasting from the new and improved studios here, the very own Generation Gap Studios that we put in place over the last few months.
Oh, yeah.
We're now up, we're running, and we should be able to bring weekly shows, if not bi-weekly shows, to the people because the people are waking up, Aaron. More people than ever are waking up. It's still not enough. I don't know if it's enough to do anything about it, but it's encouraging to see more people wake up, and I'm so glad to be back on the air with you right now. And people, like he said, Generation Gap Radio at gmail.com. That's our email. Shoot us any questions, any stories you want us to get into. But I'm rocking and rolling. I'm ready to go, Aaron.
And one more thing I just wanted to mention that you will be able to contact us via comments on the YouTube page where this is posted. So love to hear from you. Make your voices known, and whether it's positive, negative, doesn't matter. We'll take it in stride and just see what the social network has to offer. And I'm also happy to say that the Generation Gap Studios, the new and improved Generation Gap Studios, and we can call that our studio. It's a wonderful thing. American-made labor right here, everybody. Boom. Eric and I got it done.
That's right. Sometimes you just got to do things yourself, and boom, we're up and running, and we should be good to go from here on out. Again, unless they kind of cut down our Wi-Fi or cut our internet feed like we're in the Ecuadorian embassy in the UK. Now, most people that listen to the show will probably get that joke, but any newcomers are going to be like, what? I don't get it. Because you're not awake, people. We're talking about Julian Assange. We're talking about the WikiLeaks. They've been coming out for the last couple weeks. And if you've been paying attention to them instead of the nonsense they're putting on the mainstream media, you'd realize that we are completely screwed when it comes to this presidential election. And everything I said a year ago, everything we said on this show for the past year is come to fruition. Why does Trump against Hillary? She is so bad. If you look at any of these WikiLeaks, okay, she is a liar. She's a cheater. She is a thief. Okay, it's been set up for her to become the next president. The only way for her to even get a legitimate chance of becoming president after all these lies and all this stuff is coming out is to put her up against someone like Trump and then force you into voting for her to make you think that you've had a choice in this election. Now, Aaron, I didn't watch any of that debate last night. It's a farce. The Charlie Brown pumpkin patch was on. I watched that beforehand. But after that, I didn't tune into the debate at all. I kind of watched the first one and a little bit of the second one, but I was completely out last night. What did you get, if anything, by watching that nonsense?
I was driving home from work at that time and had that long, lonesome road on the New Jersey Turnpike. So I figured I could either listen to a book on tape, I can listen to some reruns or some podcasts of either news or entertaining radio shows that I like. But no, I chose what I thought would be the more entertaining option, the professional wrestling option, if you will. And I went through the debate, and I thought Hillary answered a little bit more directly than Trump did when she was asked a direct question. She gave a more direct answer. He did not.
You know why? Because she probably knew the questions beforehand. Because if you look at any of the WikiLeaks that come out, that the Clinton ties with the United States media go back, first of all, 30 years. And second of all, they are all in favor of her. We know all the big media corporations are only owned by what? Six corporations own all the media and all the outlets. Okay. It's controlled. They're all in her favor. So I'm sure you got a great show. I'm sure it was awesome and entertaining, but you didn't get any answers. You didn't get anything. I mean, the WikiLeaks prove that she's had answers beforehand. The one woman, Donna Brazil, who took over for Debbie Wasserman Schultz as the head of the DNC, you've seen this woman for years on CNN. Well, it turns out she's in CNN finding out what the questions are and sending them to Hillary beforehand of any of these debates.
Well,
okay, that's true. And instead of talking about that, we're talking about, well, you know, Russia must have hacked these, Russia must have hacked us and Russia must have did all this trying to distract you with Russia, but not denying that everything in these WikiLeaks that have come out is true.
Well, one of the, I don't like the term, but one of the surrogates for Clinton, they brought up the question, do you know that these are actually facts? I mean, if these are coming from a hacker, these are coming from international sources, who's to say they just didn't put these together and make them look authentic? You know, that could be a disinformation.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. If you know anything about computers, and I know very little, but I've seen many shows. If you ever watch the Vice channel, they actually have a show called Cyber War,
right,
where they interview people that are, you know, basically either worked for the government, do work for the government, or are hackers around the world. And they talk to these people, and these people tell you basically how easy it is to get into mines and yours computers and, you know, hack and get what they need and get what they want. And they say this is coming from the brilliant hacker minds, the computer guys that are out there. OK, they say you can never really know where a hack is coming from, because if I'm here in New Jersey, I can take my computer, hack into a computer in another country, and then hack into your computer. So now you go back and in your feed, it looks like your computer was hacked from that other country that I went through. So you don't have to be in that particular country. It doesn't have to be that particular country doing the hack. You can make it look like it's from another country, but it could be your own.
Right.
So,
no. Yeah, I understand that.
To just come out and immediately say it's Russia and just be so cocksure about it is wrong, because that's wrong. They can't prove that it's from Russia. And even if it is from Russia, the facts are that the information coming out in these WikiLeaks and all these other sources, we're not talking about what's coming out. We're not talking about what's in them. We're not talking about the truth in them. We're talking about Donald Trump and something he said 8 years ago that makes no sense in a presidential election. We should be talking about what these people are actually going to do. You realize Hillary hasn't said what she's going to do about anything in this country when she becomes president since Bernie Sanders has been out of this race, because he was the only one raising actual issues.
Well, last night, though, she did credit Bernie Sanders a couple of times, saying that, you know, I'm working with Bernie Sanders on this proposal. She did address the minimum wage. She did address the college, how she wants things to go, how she wants coverage for families and young people from pre-K all the way up to college. And she did credit Bernie Sanders for coming on board and helping with that proposal.
Of course she did. She's got to close the deal. She's 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away from the election. She's got to close the deal with those other Bernie people. So most of the Bernie people have now switched. They're going to, at least 50% are going to vote for Hillary. All right. She's got to close the deal with that last 30%, because she's not going to get them all. There's 20% that aren't going to go her way. Me being one, I'm voting Jill Stein. Matter of fact, I like Jill Stein more than I liked Bernie Sanders when I look at the issues. But back to what I'm saying, she's got to weigh that last 30% in these last couple of weeks. So, of course, she's going to throw Bernie Sanders' name out there. She wants those people that have finally calmed down and they're not mad anymore like they were back in August. Okay. She's going to convince them to vote for her and not for him. So, of course, she's going to bring up Bernie Sanders' name and some of the ideas she may or may not be talking with him about. She's not going to do anything even remotely to what she's talking about when it comes to Bernie Sanders and his ideas.
Well, we will certainly see.
It's a show, Aaron. Look at you. You fell for it.
No, I'm not. No. I'm not falling for anything. What I'm just saying, I'm just trying to analyze what we saw or what I heard on the program. I'm not saying I'm.
Let me ask you this. I didn't
Okay.
get to see it. I didn't see it.
Right.
Did they mention anything about the possible world war we're about to start over in the Middle East? Did they say anything about Yemen? We're currently bombing Yemen. We're currently using Saudi Arabia to help us basically usher in this next war between Russia and China and the United States and the UN. And it's going down in Syria. It's going down in Libya. It's going down in Iraq. It's going down in Yemen. And we're not – did they bring any of that up?
There was no talk about Yemen, but every other country and the vacuum of power that could be caused over there, that was brought up and addressed in a couple different ways for international policy and also about sending troops over there, continuing if ISIS is brought under control with Mosul. Are we going to send more troops to kind of finish the job that past regimes, the Obama regime and the Bush regime, have started? Are we going to finish that?
Did they mention that America actively arms and backs ISIS, the same people that we're trying to supposedly fight? Did they mention that at all?
No.
Did they mention that we created ISIS? Did they mention that we're supposedly fighting them in Iraq, but we're allowing 9,000 ISIS fighters to cross peacefully from Iraq into Syria so that we can have more ISIS fighters in Syria to keep the unstabilization over there, to keep the proxy war up with Russia and Syria going on? Did they mention that at all? Because I didn't watch the debate,
right?
So I'm asking.
Right, not directly that ISIS is crossing into Syria, but that rebel forces. They use the term rebel forces a lot, I think, in place of ISIS. But there was the mention of controlling ISIS. Not that we gave them weapons, but that the other point. Yes, that was addressed. It was touched on, but you only have 2 minutes of a talking point, and at least 5 to 15 of those seconds you're being interrupted by your opponent.
So basically, they didn't talk about anything. I'm not talking about ISIS.
These are just like sound bites, though. That's the thing. You're not going to get into any real issues in a debate because, like you said a moment ago, it's just a show, and you can't. It's just like listening to 5 minutes of a news update. You're only getting a small little tidbit of information. You're not going to actually get into the issues.
I'm not talking about ISIS sneaking over from Iraq to go help out in Syria. I'm talking about the United States and Saudi Arabia granting 9,000 ISIS fighter soldiers free passage to go from Iraq and go into Syria. They're not going to bomb them. They're actually helping them move over. So the same people we're supposedly fighting in Iraq, because we got to, liberate the last few cities, we're backing and arming and we're allowing them to come and help us out in Syria.
Right.
How does this make any sense?
That was not directly touched on. No, that was not directly talked about.
Well, that's news that has come out in the last 2 weeks, and I haven't seen it on any mainstream media. Now, if anybody that's listening wants to see any of these stories, go to our Facebook page, Generation Gap Radio on Facebook. We've been posting all of these stories for the last few months, and if you look at them and just scroll down, it's connecting the dots right in front of your eyes, okay? We're ramping up the rhetoric, talking about Russia. We're ramping up how we have to finish off Syria. Russia's backing Syria, obviously. Now China comes out and they support Russia in Syria and Afghanistan. Okay, so now we know China's backing Russia. Russia's backing Syria. We're both fighting sides. We're backing armed rebels, quote unquote, ISIS in Syria to overtake the Assad regime in Syria. Russia's backing Assad, so we're basically fighting. We're already at war with Russia, okay? But we're just using pawns. These poor people that live in Syria, we're using them as our, troops on the ground. But we have a army destroyer off the coast of Yemen that has been claiming for the last few weeks they've been getting missile launched from somewhere on Yemen. Somebody's launching missiles at our peaceful destroyer sitting in their waters off their coast. So what have we been doing for the last week? We've been retaliating. We've been sending missiles into Yemen. Now, if you look on a map and you look at where Saudi Arabia is and the whole Middle East and Iraq, and there's Yemen right there. There's Syria right there. Oh, my God. All these – doesn't it go back to when years ago we were talking about this second Iraq war? Doesn't it go back to how their plan is to take over the entire Middle East, destabilize the Middle East. We're using the Middle East as the proving grounds for our next major war. And it's going to be between us and Russia and China. It's outrageous, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody probably even thinks we're on the verge of a major world war right now.
Do you think
we are?
Well, do you think there's a little bit of a false sense of security? Because if you look at it geographically, we have Russia and China kind of surrounded by our quote unquote allied forces. And that's part of what I think the push for the TPP was in something that we've been talking about. It's not really a trade deal. It's more of a control deal. You're talking about control with these unelected panels making determinations for these countries. Is this what the game plan is to kind of surround our opposition, being China, Russia, and to a lesser extent, North Korea?
The more I look at it, the more are they even really our opposition? I mean, think about it. This war will be mostly in the Middle East and the South China Sea. It's not like we're going to be sending troops into Russia or sending troops into China, and I doubt vice versa, them sending troops into America. All right? This will be fought in the Middle East, and this is where most of it will stay. All right? Now, we just saw that there is a $152 trillion world debt to the IMF. China is in that. Russia is in that, okay? All these companies or all these countries owe money. What is the biggest money maker out there? It's war. It's war. It's the rich killing the poor people, sending poor people off to kill more poor people who they have more in common with than the people sending them over there. Okay, this has been set up for years, and now it's the culmination of this. This is why Hillary's going to be president. I'm not saying it's good if Russia's really hacking our country.
Absolutely not.
But she is a war hawk. She is out to have a war with Russia, and once she becomes president, everything's set. All the ground forces are in place. The equipment's been sent over. All we got to do is ratchet this war up a little bit more, and we're on the verge of doing that. We're on the verge of doing that because the banks that control the world will make money off of it. Once this war ever ends in the Middle East, we already know Iraq is completely decimated. We know Syria is in the process of that. Libya, Egypt, all these countries have basically been destroyed. Once this war finally settles, all those countries that, remember, bomb them back to the Stone Ages, all those countries that were old and have been around forever will have to be rebuilt. And there comes all these realtors, all these building people, all these businesses, all these corporations are going to come in and they're going to rebuild all these countries and rebuild all these cities, and they'll all be advanced and they'll all be connected to the net and they'll all be under the surveillance grid of the world. Okay. And there'll be billions, trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars to be made for the next 30, 40, 50 years, taking these destroyed countries that we're actively destroying because we're having a war and turning them into, modern cities and amenities and et cetera.
Well, I think to a lesser extent, it's kind of what you see with what we do in our American Southwest. You're trying to build these massive cities like a Las Vegas or a Reno in a desert, and it's not sustainable for a long period of time just because the natural resources aren't there. And you're not going to have that same real estate appeal in the Middle East that you are on the west coast of the United States or the Mediterranean, the Greek Isles, something like that. It's not what is practical, and that's not what's sustainable with the lack of natural resources, mainly water in that area.
You will if all the old stone buildings that have been there for centuries are gone because it's flattened. And it's just easy to come in and just create this.
No, but what I'm saying is, but with the water shortage that is going to inevitably occur because of overpopulation, it's not practical because you're not going to have water in that part of the world. It's just that's not how that environment works. And it's silly to try to force that. That's why I made the Las Vegas analogy. It's just silly to try to keep forcing that. And I don't want to get too off topic, but I did want to just, before I talk about the Raiders going to Las Vegas or potentially going to Las Vegas, I did want to say that I personally am not looking at Russia or China as an opposition, but I'm just saying that I use that term because that's the mass media portrayal. That's what they're trying to push. And that's something that, we've said on the show that it's helping beat those drums of war, unfortunately. But you've got a very sensitive situation because we have been an occupying force, or at least we've been seen as an occupying force in the Middle East for how many years now? At least I would say the bulk of our lifetime. So you're talking about 30 plus years of America being in the Middle East and trying to control a situation which we have no idea. We have very little experience apart from second or third hand experience. My personal opinion is to just get the hell out of there. Just get out of there. Unfortunately, if you do that, then the argument is that Russia, China, they're going to come in and they're going to kind of set up their own little regimes. But the best option I see it is just to let the people of the Middle East get their own shit figured out.
See, the problem is, go back to when we invaded Iraq. Okay, this is part of a bigger
Are you talking
invasion.
about which one? Are you talking about like
the
early
second
90s? Oh, second one. Okay, so like 2002. Okay.
The time when Bush was illegally elected by the Supreme Court,
right?
Who interfered in an election that they had no business doing, and basically, if they'd finished the recount, he would have lost.
Right.
Okay, we knew when he got in that he was going to go into Iraq, and then eventually, after 9/11 and using the excuse, they went into Iraq. Okay, but that's part of a grander scheme. We can't just look at it as just invading one country. Look what we started doing. We are destabilizing the entire Middle East. Since then, we've gone into every country in the Middle East that's not our friend. We went into Egypt, Libya, Syria now, Yemen, Saudi Arabia. Iran is just stuck there because they're where they are, but they're backed by Russia as well. Saudi Arabia is on a team. Like that whole Middle East, everybody that's not on our team, we've gone to war with. And they might not be calling it war, but when we're bombing people and killing them in their country unprovoked by us, or you know what I mean, that's a war. And then we use the guise of ISIS and Al Qaeda and whatever other name they want to, or initials they want to add to these people, and call them terrorists and say, we have to bomb them. They scare us at home in the media, and really, it's part of a bigger agenda. Again, let's go back. Why do we go to war? Because there's money. Right now we know in America the Wall Street is a fraud. Okay, that's a debt bubble. We know our money is devalued. We know that we've been printing money. It's devaluing everybody's dollar. It's devaluing everybody's paycheck, their way of life. Okay, the same thing's going on around the world. $152 trillion in world debt. The entire world is in debt, $152 trillion to the IMF. Again, this includes China. This includes countries around the world. Okay, we have these companies, these big banks. They fund both sides of the war, so they make out. It's about money. It's about sustaining the bubble that has been created. Now, if you look, something they probably didn't bring up is if you look on our website, there's been nothing but every other thing's about the Deutsche Bank, the biggest bank in Europe. Germany's biggest bank, the biggest bank in Europe, Deutsche Bank, is about to collapse. That will bring down the entire world. That will bring down our economy. That will bring down the world economy. Okay, we have talk here about locally that Citibank, Wells Fargo, all these other big banks are, that the too big to fail banks are on the verge of failing again. So we have all these big banks ready to collapse the entire world economy. How do we fix that? If that happens, how do we fix that? We start a war. We start a world war. And again, if you look at everything being set up, if you look how the game is being maneuvered right now, that's what they're setting us up for. They're setting us up for a worldwide, basically, stock market and dollar crash. And to fix it, we're going to have this giant war in the Middle East.
Well, I do think a lot of these
there.
Well,
it's right there to be seen.
I do think a lot of these crashes are, unfortunately, they come at the cost of the middle or lower middle class people of the country, of the society, because they're the ones that always lose out. The people at the top, they are almost rewarded with multi-million-dollar, $100 million payouts. It's, again, you're just kind of eroding the lower class of said society. And it's a very scary thing, and it's a very disruptive thing to do. we're not seeing enough of society as a whole, whether it's Americans, Germans, Europeans, whomever, they're not stepping up and saying, this is a bad deal. We can't keep going in this direction. And that's why I think what you touched on at the beginning of the show, Eric, we have, at least in this country, because this is an election season, a very polarized election, that we have, we're pretty much in dire straits because we have realistically 2 bad choices. But if you want to expand that to the Libertarian and Green Party, we have 4 bad choices, in my humble opinion. And the only one I thought who seemed genuine, not that I agree with everything he had to say, but the only one who seemed genuine was Bernie Sanders. And that's why I would have voted for him. And I would still, if he was, I wish he would, still run, but that's not in the cards, unfortunately. But that's just the way our system works, and how our system has been manipulated so that you have a person who has, talking to Hillary Clinton, has, I think, a sense of entitlement. She's been doing this she would always boast that she's been doing this for 30 plus years of being in civil service. And it's like her time is now. You have this disruptive force of Donald Trump that is really agitating a lot of people, whether it's for his own aggrandizement or just to be this opposition of what America should stand for. And that's, he's shown the racism and the lack of education in many communities throughout this country. And that's why it's just...
Yeah, but you know what? The Democrats have taken a advantage of racism and lack of education in communities to get votes their entire lives.
Absolutely.
They're professionals at it.
Oh, absolutely. And when we've talked about it on the show many times, and that's why I want to get rid of welfare in this country as it stands now. Now, I don't want to necessarily get rid of the unemployment benefits for some people, because you have contracted workers who the jobs might be sporadic here and there, and they count on that. I understand that. That's fine. They are working. But I want to get rid of that welfare entitlement mindset, and that is absolutely 100% on the Democrats. And it's not lost on me that the Democratic Party was the party of racism in the 1800s and the early 1900s. No, not at all. But I'm talking about just where the party stands right now. And absolutely, Eric, I agree that I would want to see the Democratic Party get away from this welfare, food stamp mindset for the lower income and buying off people's votes in lower incomes. Absolutely.
In the end, the welfare society doesn't help the people that are eventually on welfare. What I mean? What would help them is actually education and jobs and things like that. Okay. Again, we're not talking about, I brought this up on the last show. We're not talking about the future. It's 2016. We are not talking about the future at all in this election. Nobody's brought up the future. Nobody's brought up future jobs, future technologies, future things, and how they're going to impact our world. Nobody's talking about that. We're still talking about the past. We're talking about Bill Clinton for some reason. I don't know why Trump thinks that. Again, I don't want to get back on it because it's fixed. She's going to win. She's going to win by double digits. Go back to last year in August when Trump came out, and I said it on this show. I said Trump will win. He will go up against Hillary, for the simple fact that he will be worse than her and people will be tricked into voting for her. She's going to win by double digits. It's going to be a landslide. Okay. Half of the stuff he's saying is true. But because it's coming from his mouth, he's discrediting all the truth out of it. So if anybody actually brings up any of those topics now, you're going to be, oh, you're a Trump guy. You're like Trump. You're like, no, think about it. The election being fixed and rigged is true. The fact that they steal elections is true. We saw in the WikiLeaks, they stole the election from Bernie Sanders, okay? I have on our website or Facebook, Generation Gap Radio, hidden camera, New York City Democratic Election Commissioner talking about how there's lots of fraud, how there's always fraud, how they just fix it to make it look like they want you to have a choice. But really, it's fixed. Okay, all that's true. It came out in WikiLeaks, and we've known it. We've said it for years that it's fake, that the election can be fixed, especially with the electronic voting fraud. Okay, the fact that Hillary lies about all this stuff, the fact that she should be in jail, that is all true as well. If she wasn't already the pre-picked puppet to win this presidency. Other things he brings up, the fact that the one thing he said that was great the other day, there should be term limits for our Congress and Senate. There should be term limits. Okay. Now, if you bring that up, oh, you sound like Trump. Well, wait a minute. And go back to the immigration thing. If people are here illegally and we want to have a structure of like who's in the country, who's coming out of the country, and have like a whereabouts in them, even just so they could pay the proper taxes. And I'm not big on taxes, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh, sure.
They should be documented. We should know who's in the country. And if they are here illegally, there should be some way to either send them back or make them legal. So that's not wrong either. But he's so crazy and out there, and you're so distracted by what he said on a bus when nobody was around except some other guy and they were talking shit. You know what I mean? All of a sudden that made him – I'm not saying it's right what he said, but what I'm saying is that's what they got us focusing on instead of the issues.
It's only locker room talk. It's just locker room talk. That's all it is.
Yo, and it's funny because I seen guys on the one guy who's the CNN guy?
Wolf Blitzer?
No, the guy that comes on before him, the guy from Philly. Jake Tapper comes on. I never in my life spoke like this about women.
Oh, dude, if you're from Philly, especially.
I was in a sorority. I was in a fraternity, and I've never heard men speak this way. And
Jake Tapper's in a sorority.
And I'm like, probably was a sorority. All right. You know what? That's BS. All right. You don't want to admit it, but we've all heard men talk in this way, and if not worse. And most of the time it's done in a joking manner, which you couldn't say in front of anybody because it would be so appalling to anybody to hear. You say it around your boys joking around as, you know what I mean? You're up the mountains. There's 3 guys in a cabin talking trash, getting drunk, having fun. And you might, say some things about women that you would never say, but you only say it as a joke and you say it around those, 2 or 3 people. You're not expecting to get recorded or this and that. Not to mention he said something and they're like, it was a sexual assault. He didn't say he did it. And if you listen to what he said, he was talking about how being a celebrity, women go crazy and you could do anything to them. And that's what celebrityism does to people.
I mean, hell, if you heard that Mel Gibson tape about what he was saying to his ex-wife, I mean, it's true. That's just one example. That is a celebrity mindset that this fame does give you some power. Now, whether it's right or wrong, that's for people to make up their own. It's not right or wrong.
It's the people's fault that give these people the power to do that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
It's the people that look up to these celebrities and give them special power. Somehow these celebrities get off with murder and get out of going to jail and this and that. If they were normal people, they'd be in jail for a lifetime. Okay, but we give this special pass for celebrityism.
I'm looking at you, Ray
Lewis. If you listen to what his comment was leaning into, which the beginning was, again, I'm not saying it's right, but what I'm saying is they use this as a distraction, but he wasn't wrong either. He was saying these girls love you so much when you're a celebrity that you can do anything to them. And for the majority of those types of girls, especially those beauty queen girls, that is the absolute truth. So whatever. Anyway, I got distracted. Look, I'm talking about it right now. They pulled me off to the side. All right. My point being is he's got like 5 things he says that are actually true that we could actually discuss. But he's so crazy and so out there, and they're so distracting with all this other stuff coming out. We don't talk about that. So now in the future, are those truths now tainted by Trump that we can't even bring up? Because in the next election cycle, if somebody brings up the same problems that we're having. Oh, well, Trump said that back in 2016.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a
Trump.
thing. No,
and they're going to discredit people just by using the word conspiracy theorist. They use that to discredit the person. Just because they use that doesn't mean it's wrong. And they're going to use Trump in the future to shut anybody down that brings up any of these topics.
That could be true, and I'm sure that will be, especially with the vastness of our media and the fact that, as we've seen, a lot more than we realize is being recorded, whether that's audio, video, or both. But the only thing I can say that's a little bit of a silver lining with that is the fact that many people's attention spans are so short that I don't think that Trump that whole using that Trump analogy will hold a lot of water in the future.
They'll just show a commercial, man. They'll remind you about it.
They'll remind you, but I think there's gonna be a different spin to put on it. But the guy does make some legitimate points, and you touched on a lot of them. The only problem is that he's not speaking them in a clear, intelligent way. They come wrapped in racism and for his own aggrandizement. It's not a clear, well thought out professional message that you need when you're going up against this big system of government and you're trying to make some change and get people aware of what's really going on. You have to be a lot more tactful than Trump has been.
Well, he's there to do what he's doing. He's there to do exactly the job he's doing.
Oh, sure.
And he's doing it well, because we're not talking about any of these WikiLeaks that have come out that show how corrupt this woman actually is. If she was running by herself, nobody else against her, and we just had to vote yes or no, and there was no other option. It was either yes her or no her. There was no other person that was going to win. And we could actually just look at the facts and not be distracted by what's going on the other side, then she wouldn't win. The fact that they say she's not qualified is the truth. She broke the law, and Edward Snowden had to go to another country and hide out because of breaking stuff that wasn't not true, just that he shouldn't have been doing it. You can't release that information to the public. In a roundabout way, she did the same thing. And then when you see these WikiLeaks, and again, go back to our website or the Facebook page, because we have all these stories up, ladies and gentlemen. Read them for yourselves, okay?
They haven't been pulled down yet.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they're going out because Facebook is, censoring certain stories, especially about Hillary Clinton.
But the point is, everyone,
it's just outrageous, Aaron. Yeah, it really is. It's a show. It's a farce.
Yeah, we're going to try to do our best to just give everyone information as we sift through it, and we try to fact check as best as we can. But one thing we always say on this program is, ladies and gentlemen, please do your own research. The ease of information now and getting information, there's a lot of BS to sift through, but if you do your best to fact check what you're reading, it's going to be so beneficial. And that's why we consistently say this on the show is, please do your own research.
Aaron, I know I'm like on the far end now, but we've been doing this show for so many years now, and the things that we talk about come to fruition, and we just I feel like we're awake enough where we can see what's going on before it's happening. Not that we're futuristic and we're telepathic and we can see the future, but if you look at the little bit of stories and how they put them out, and if you follow it over the year and just scroll down and look through them, we post them on our site. Mm-hmm. If you look through them, you can see the dots connecting, and you can see the road we're leading down, and you can see how it's controlled, and you can see how they're doing it. Pentagon paid $540 million for fake terrorist videos. Okay, the same terrorists that we have to go and fight over in the Middle East, which is the excuse we're over there, and be scared of here at home. All right, $540 million for fake terrorist videos the Pentagon paid. Okay, now that's a real story. That's truth. Okay, but that's not brought up. Now, wait a minute. Why would the Pentagon want to make fake terrorist videos? Maybe to scare us here back at home, to think there's an actual enemy out there, when really the enemy that's over there with guns are walking around with American weapons. They're walking around with American ammunition because we give it to them. But then back at home, you got to be scared. You got to be scared. But our own Pentagon, $540 million for fake terrorist videos. Don't you think we could have built some schools with that? Don't you think we could have educated the people or helped get the people off of welfare so they're not dependent on the system no more? No, because we want them dependent on the system.
Oh, yeah.
We want them stupid.
Absolutely.
We want them thinking that you actually have to choose between Hillary and Trump. If nobody went and voted this year, she still wins. It doesn't matter. It's fixed, it's frauded, and we know this, and we've proved it from time to time. We've talked about it for years, and it's so blatant anymore that I can't stand it. I can't try and hide behind trying to wake people up a little bit at a time. You got to get smacked in the face now, people. If you're not hip to this, if you're not even considering that this is a fraud, then you need to have your head checked. You need to turn your TV off. You need to stop drinking the fluoride. You need to stop going to the fast food chains. You need to wake up. And again, I said in the beginning of the show, more people are waking up every day.
Yeah.
More people are definitely awake now than they were 9 years ago when we started this show, but it's not enough. It's not enough to change. It's not enough to do anything about it.
The problem that I think we're still spinning our wheels with is that a lot of people, unfortunately, are not getting an education for one reason or another. They're not getting an education that is not cookie cutter. We're filling people, young people, with impractical information. I mean, I'm not talking about mathematics or language, a bit of science and geography. That's all fine. But I'm saying real world practical applications, how government actually works, how you can get involved to either support or change said government, personal finances, and internet technologies. I mean, we are in a world right now where quantum computing is on the verge of being a reality, if it's not already. Now, Google's made some claims, but nothing's been codified yet. But cybersecurity right now is a huge issue, and if we have these many problems with quote unquote Russian hackers or hackers from wherever, then we need a good cybersecurity base in this country. Why are we not stressing to our young people, learn how the internet works, learn how computing works, learn how mass information works, the transfer of said information? And that's something that's not a core requirement in our public education system. Also, just the way taxation works. Our tax code is incredibly complicated. We hear this every time there's an election cycle, usually during the presidency. That
they never do anything about it.
And nothing's ever changed. And like you said, Eric, I agree with you, I don't particularly like taxes, but I understand that in order to have a functioning government with again, I don't want to say entitlements, but with programs that do help the citizens, whether that's through Social Security retirement or temporary I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry. Temporary unemployment benefits, whatever it is, or even health care. I mean, you do need a tax base for that. But when you're not spending that tax money correctly and that money is going overseas to pay for our screw-ups or just to appease other nations, I got a big problem with that. And that's probably the biggest problem I have with the second-term Obama administration, that I was more for him the first time around, but this second term, he's become more of a globalist, and I have a big issue with that. We need focus on this country. Our education system is where it has to start. We need young people getting into the workforce eventually to come up with new revolutionary ideas, and we're starting to see more and more wonderful ideas come out that are not working against environment. They're working with environment and also working to stimulate the economy. So when you can combine environmentally neutral jobs and companies also to boost the economy, that is a wonderful thing. And that's something that we have to move forward with in the future, not just this country, but all countries. And it starts with education. And unfortunately, I mentioned earlier, you're talking about when I was saying about Clinton, you were asking me about the debate. She's the only one who's really been talking about education, but unfortunately, it's that cookie cutter education that we're not going to have any real change come out of, because we're not stimulating these lower income communities. We're not revolutionizing our public education system, and we're not holding accountable the money that is being wasted or not even spent in education.
Aaron, my sister's oldest kid is like 7 now. And
D?
No.
What's it? Oh my
DB?
God. DB, right? Yeah.
That's the second one.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
The first one, Nikki, and just brought home. And my sister sent this to me. She sent me a picture. She's like, "Should I tell him the truth?" And it was Columbus Day, and the answer was, "Who discovered America?" And he wrote Columbus. And well, why did Columbus come to America? Well, he came to and like he wrote all this stuff down. And I'm like, why are we still teaching history that we know is not right?
Yeah.
Why are we still teaching the wrong version of history when we've known and that it's wrong? That we know that it's wrong. We know Columbus didn't discover America, first of all, because he didn't even hit the American mainland. Second of all, they found him. Third of all, there was people here, bruh.
Yeah.
You didn't discover shit. Like, why are we teaching that old Nina Pinta Santa Maria and 1492 and Ocean Blue and Columbus discovered America? He didn't discover it. Okay. And he also slaughtered countless numbers of ethnicities of Native Americans.
Right.
Like,
The Arawaks.
Why aren't we teaching that? Why are we, don't get rid of Columbus Day. Use it to learn the history of what we did to the people that had a land that we wanted, and we came in and got it, because we're still doing the same thing. We're doing it now over in the Middle East. We're doing the same thing. It's outrageous. But why are we still teaching kids that? Why are we still teaching kids that? They should be taught the truth. Why are we still teaching kids old science when we know that, all these different theories that have been proven and, with quantum physics and all this stuff that have changed what is right and what is wrong in these answers? Why are we still teaching that? The old wrong stuff. It's crazy.
Well, I would say, why are we still using, for the most part, textbooks in our schools? I know they're starting to be phased out.
Because there's so much money in textbooks, and the textbook lobby down in Washington is huge. That's why textbooks cost $80, $90, $100 per student. That's why they strap cash these cities to do their own schooling. Then they need help from the federal government. Now the federal government can help them, but they also have now some influence on what you learn and what books will allow you to buy. Oh, great. So we can control the information, we can control the people, and we can control how we teach you, even though we know that the stuff in the textbooks is old and outdated and not right anymore.
It's so difficult. And it's a waste of time, money, and resources to constantly update these textbooks when they are updated, if there's the money to update them. And it's so much easier for $80, $90, $100 per student. You can give someone, instead of like 5 books that are going to run you upwards of $500, $600, you can easily give that student a tablet computer. And that way they can access the internet. They can branch off on their own. And you're going to have child safeguards. I understand that there's an argument that, you don't want the child to be accessing certain websites. Of course not. Of course not. The internet.
Wait a minute. If North Korea can control what their people see on the internet, I'm sure the school systems of the United States can control what their students see.
But this goes back to just good parenting. And if you talk to your child and teach your child that, hey, listen, I want you to be able to explore the web. Hell, explore the deep web if you want. Find out what's really out there, but just keep in mind that, there are a lot of dark places to this. And I mean, you're not going to have this conversation word for word with someone who's 7 years old. That's more of someone who's an adolescent, maybe 15 or 16. But the point is, you have ways of making it, adjusting the internet exposure as a parent and as a school system to an extent. But it really starts with the parents, of guiding your child into a more robust educational experience. And it's also going to be cheaper because it's a lot easier to update a PDF or a document file than it is to print a textbook. And that's just something we've got to start realizing, and we've got to understand that these lobbies, okay, lobbying is fine, petitioning our government is fine, but when we're talking about outdated technology, outdated materials, and an outdated way of doing things, we've just got to take a step back and say, no, you're wrong, sorry, get out. We're not listening to you anymore, all right? And that's why I do agree with term limits. We need to term limits, and we've talked about this many times on the show. We need term limits because if you are kind of in this realm of politics for so long, then it's just going to become second nature almost. You're going to get comfortable, and you're not going to have the same tenacity that you had when you first got in. Yeah, I mean, once in a while you go fight for a job, but the bulk of your time in Congress, in the Senate, is fundraising, right? I mean, how much time is wasted just by fundraising? And wouldn't that be less time spent fundraising if you knew that you were going to be out in 8 years, let's say? You have 2 terms and you're out, okay? There's way too much money in the political system, and there's not enough money in our education system. And we need to see a big transfer in funds, or we're going to keep spinning our wheels and we're not going to get anywhere. And I love the analogy, or the example, that you made about Columbus. It wasn't until, for me personally, I mean, I fortunately I was able to read things on the internet, but technically in school, in public education, it wasn't until I was a senior in high school And I took an elective, an advanced class, and we talked about the writings of Albert Einstein, the writings of Martin Luther King, the actual writings of Columbus, and several other people like there's just a lot of activists, people who came through history and just kind of challenged the system, civil disobedience, and things like that. And it wasn't until that class, my senior year of high school, when we actually talked about Columbus and the Arawak Native Americans or Indians, whatever term you want to throw. And I just thought that was kind of sad. I was 18 years old, technically, legally an adult. And this is the first class, the first public education experience I had that actually talked about the true story of the whole 1492 sail in the ocean blue.
Right. It's crazy. And again, if I don't know if I have a kid or not, but at least my nephews, I will teach that, you know what? It doesn't matter if you did good in school or if you learned how to memorize and repeat what they want you to know. Great. But that doesn't make it right, and that doesn't make it wrong, and that doesn't make you smart for knowing, that, whatever they taught you. You know what I mean? That you repeat it back to them, and they said, no, this is the right answer. And, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Forget that. You got to question everything.
Absolutely.
Question your teachers.
Yes.
Question everything. You talked about term limits. Yo, I just pulled up longest serving members of the United States Congress. Here we go. Currently serving John Conyers in the House, 51 years, 291 days. Charles B. Rangel, House Democrat, 45 years. Ted Cochran, 43 years. Don Young, 43 years. Patrick Leahy, 41 years. Chuck Grassley, 41 years. And so on and so. Orrin Hatch, 39 years. Like, do the math real quick for me, Aaron. Hold on, I got a little computer thingy here. 2016 minus 39 years. 1977. I think things have changed a little bit in the world since 1977, 2 years before I was born. Why is the person that was making decisions back in 1977 still making decisions in 2016? At 76 years old, at 59 years old, at these people are freaking old. How old are these people? What do they know about today's world and the future? Again, it goes back. We're not talking about the future and what's coming down the road and what the country's going to look like in the next 5 years, based just strictly off of technology and inventions and implementing those things. We're not talking about that at all. We're talking about a man on a bus having a conversation with another guy that got recorded when they didn't think they were being heard. We're talking about nonsense. We're talking about nonsense. And this is our election. This is who we're and you really think, anybody out there that's still not sure, you really think you actually have a choice? You really think you have some sort of control with your vote in this upcoming election, that this isn't predetermined on who was going to be the quote unquote puppet of the United States for the next 4 years? Come on, wake up. It's right there in front of you.
Absolutely. And that's why I don't like the mindset that some people have, say, oh, I'm not going to vote. No, you take part in the system in hopes that you can change the system and through education and through understanding what's going on, that hopefully for yourself, for future generations, you can start to improve these things, get some of the money out, get some of these long-term politicians out, all right, and really start to change the system, and don't come across as being what all the negative imagery, the negative verbiage that has come out of the Trump campaign. Get that out of there, and then stick to the issues. Stick to fundamental change for the betterment of the people of this country, or whatever country you're representing. It's just on a global scale. For most Western civilizations and some even Middle East, Far East civilizations, we are being looked at as very, I think, juvenile, and
they're embarrassed. Aaron, I was in Greece at the end of August, and every person that knew I was from America that was from overseas, all they asked me about was the election and Trump. They are so scared, and they want to know what the hell's going on over here. Okay, and they'll even be happy when Hillary gets in, and because. It was set up from the beginning to be like this. Okay, here's the thing. You're not going to vote? Go vote, because guess what? All these congressmen are up for re-election. If there's a name that was running for re-election, vote for the other guy. Vote for the other guy. I don't care what the other guy's policies are. Vote for the other guy. These people that have been in for 39, 41 years, 45 years. And that's how you got to change. You can't have somebody at 70 years old making decisions about our future when they don't understand that things have changed in the last 20 years. I mean, the world, the future is here.
Absolutely. You cannot that's one of my biggest pet peeves with this government and with most governments, is that we have elected people who have, I mean, maybe they were young when they started, but they're certainly not now. And that's why you need to set term limits, whether that's 2 terms. I'd be even okay with 3 terms, 12 years, about a decade. That is plenty of time to be in the public as a public official. And if you can't make a name for yourself and make a good career in that time, then out. It doesn't matter. Out.
Here's the other thing. People are talking about, oh, third party can't win. Third party can't win. All we need is 1/3 of the vote. Right now, they're splitting 50-50 between Clinton and Trump. If we really rallied behind a third party candidate, all we need is 34% of the vote to beat them. If they all got a third, you know what I mean? So we don't even need a majority if they're splitting the vote between Clinton and Trump to get a third party not only elected, but at least in the realm where they can make the debates and get on there on the stage as a third party debate. At least get on there and actually say, wow, a third party got 25% of the vote. Well, they didn't win the election, but wow, at least now we know that a third party is a legitimate party to go up against the establishment of the Republicans and the Democrats. Because even the Republicans are saying vote for Hillary now. Even the Republicans don't want to back Trump. They're like, we're not backing this guy. He's too bad. We can't do it. I can't believe he won our party's nomination, but we're not backing him. So even they're telling you to vote for Hillary. So they're all on the same side. It's just a ruse to make us think that Democrats and Republicans are different when they're not.
And you're absolutely right, Eric, that there is a need for a third-party candidate in this country. And we're not, unfortunately, we have not seen a legitimate third-party contendee since Ross Perot. And if we would actually get behind, whether it's a libertarian, a green, or just an independent party in general, then it's going to benefit this country and its debate structure so much, because you're going to get, at least in some aspect, some new, potentially refreshing ideas that's not the same Democrat welfare, pseudo cookie cutter education, and Republican business tax cut, trickle down economics. That's all we've heard for 2 decades now, and that act has been stale for a decade and a half. All right, it's not going to cut it anymore.
Exactly. Again, it's the future. We got to be worried about the future. The future is here, man. We got to be. Why are we still talking about this old stuff? If a third party candidate, it wouldn't really take that much, because if you look at the people that are voting in this election for Trump or Hillary, there's a good percentage of people out there that if those people voted for a third party candidate, there would be a third party candidate with a legitimate chance, and we would actually get maybe down to talking about issues and talking about policies instead of worrying about what this guy said 5 years ago, or, you know what I mean? Like, even the same thing with her emails and the WikiLeaks. We're not talking about that, again, because of the media that, gee, in the WikiLeaks, it says how cozy she is with the media. But even still, we're not talking about that. We're being distracted. We're being nonsensical. If there was a third person in there, you would be able to interject some sort of policy talk and sway the, I believe Americans want to hear them talk about real issues.
Absolutely.
Their problem is they're being entertained with a sideshow to distract you from how bad Hillary Clinton really is.
And the only time the issues are brought up is just that. We need to talk about the issues. And that's the only time you talk about the issues, is when you're talking about the issues. And I'm talking about the issues right now. You see what I'm saying? I'm talking about the issues. But are we real? But are we really talking about the issues? No, of course not. We just keep saying issues over and over again.
It's crazy. I'm at the end of it. But you know what? I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because guess what? We said it exactly a year ago. In August of last year, we said it.
And a year before that, and a year before that, and a year before that. Sorry.
And here it is right in front of us. It's outrageous. And you know what? People are falling for it. I'm going to go vote for Jill Stein, and then I'm going to vote for anybody that's not running for re-election here in New Jersey. And hopefully it makes a difference. And I doubt it will. I have no faith in it. I have no faith in it when it comes to this country and the structure of the people electing people that are going to put us in our best interests, people that are actually going to change, people that aren't going to just fall for the lobbyists, fall for the money, and fall for the scams. That's the people I'd like to vote for, and I don't believe those people exist, or at least not running for any kind of Senate or Congress seat. Definitely not running for president currently.
Yeah, right, absolutely. The last best independent candidate that this country had was from the great state of Minnesota, and that was Jesse the Body Ventura. He talked about the real issues. He got into the weeds.
It's pretty good, dude.
I think so. But I respectfully disagree with you. I don't think that either Jill Stein nor Gary Johnson, I mean, we talked about him before, are capable of doing the job correctly as president, nor are Hillary and Trump. But again, I think that's why I'm going to, in extreme duress, vote for Clinton, the least of all evil, I guess you can say, as far as I see it and what I've learned and the stuff that I've looked into. The less chance of the country going to hell. but the fact of the matter is, we have 4 terrible potential president choices. You know, if you want to factor in the Green Party and the Libertarian Party, obviously. And it's just, I don't see why a Bernie Sanders or a Ron Paul, people you and I have been outspoken about for doing the job of president and doing it, in our opinion, rather well, could not legitimately get on a third party. I think the problem with those two guys is they really just got too old. They tried it. And these are lifelong politicians.
They were saying the same things for years, and it wasn't until they got older that the younger people caught onto them and how hip they could be and go, wow, this is something that we can really get behind. But now you're right, they're too old. Ron Paul was way better than Bernie Sanders, just to drop that in there a little bit.
No, I absolutely, I know,
Although
I
he
agree.
has their flaws too. And again, these people are all going to have people. You're not going to agree with everything these people are going to put forward. But at the same time,
the thing for me, though, is Ron Paul and Bernie Sanders were genuine. They were genuine about what they believed in. They were as little BS as possible. And if you didn't like it, you didn't like it. That's fine. But there's no BS about groping. There's no BS about emails. There's no BS about idiocy. And there's no BS about conspiracy theories. And I'm just trying to cover a little bit with all 4 of those candidates that we currently have running for president, 4 of the major candidates, or 2 major, 2 minor, let's say that way. But my point is, Ron Paul, Bernie Sanders were genuine. They spoke, they called it as they saw it, and you're not going to agree with everything. But the fact that they were putting themselves out there and that they really, I felt that they wanted to make legitimate change, positive change in this country, was a fresh of breath air. Yes, I said it.
The one thing they had in common is they wanted to focus on home, focus on the United States, stop getting into international wars that are just going to hurt other poor people in poor countries. You know, just because you write peace on the side of a bomb doesn't not make it a bomb. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. It's cyclical, and it's happening again. The cycle is up again. It's time for another war. It's time to refresh the global debt and refresh the markets for everybody. And by doing that, we're going to do it through a war like that's been done in the past and has worked in the past. And unfortunately, we got to sit here and watch it. And you know what? In 4 years, when people are crying about another major war and their sons and daughters having to go off and fight it, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, because you had your time to stand up and do something about it. Stand up and get involved. And it goes hand in hand with what we were talking about earlier with the education system. If the people aren't educated and they're allowed to be dummies, well, they're easier to control when it comes to control, like the presidential election and controlling what happens.
And for young parents out there, please invest in your child, invest in your future, and your child is your future. Invest
in yourself as well. Get
Absolutely.
some knowledge. Get some independent knowledge outside of the mainstream media that's lying to you. They know they're lying to you. We know they're lying to us, and that the majority of the people still accept it.
Oh, absolutely. They don't only accept it, they gobble it in. That's why these 24-hour sensational news outlets are so profitable. It doesn't matter the ratings, that they're profitable. They're multi-billion-dollar industries because people are just eating it up and they love it, and they do it with a smile on their face. It's like a big, juicy disinformation Big Mac, and they're just eating it up. They can't get enough. The daytime
2 for
television,
1, baby, 2 for 1.
Oh yeah, and all that bullshit. And it's just, you sit there with your 2 for 1 and your daytime television, and you're rotting your mind, you're rotting your body. You're not advancing yourself. You're not advancing your family or whomever.
The world.
The world, yeah. Just society.
Nature.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. You get some education, you get some knowledge, you learn how to work hand in hand with your community, hand in hand with nature. It's not going to be, I'm not trying to paint like a big rosy picture or anything, but there are improvements, real world practical improvements that we can make now, and we're just not doing it because we're stuck with old money, with old interest, and until they die out, then or we just get up and say we're not, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. We're not going to, be able to spin out of this muck that we're stuck in. And
Aaron, they just put bees on the endangered species list.
Very, very sad. And I think Albert Einstein, and if in the comment section or email, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was Albert Einstein that said, once the bees go away, we will soon follow. I'm paraphrasing
Absolutely.
that, but it's 100% accurate. Without the bees, how are we going to get pollination? All right. Oh, I'm sorry. I think we have drones for that now, don't we? We have little micro drones that can pollinate, or am I just imagining that?
It's outrageous. And then once the bees are gone, what are we subservient to? Genetically modified seeds, genetically modified crops that don't need pollination, or that don't need this to grow, or these flowers can grow. And then everything we're dependent on is synthesized in a chemical version of what nature has already given us. And we're destroying nature, we're destroying the world, and here we are destroying each other. Lindsay walked through New York last night on her way home, and she has to pass Trump Tower, and she walked right into a mob scene of people protesting and people making a scene, and she said it was scary. She said on one side all these Trump people were yelling, and on the other side all these anti-Trump people were yelling. She's like, they were mad, they were angry. She's like, it was a mob mentality, and it was scary.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can I make a lowbrow? I'm going to preface this. Can I make a lowbrow joke?
Always.
Okay.
Come on, it's a generation gap, dude. We're not.
All right.
We're all about lowbrow.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry to interrupt you. A little bit of a delay in my headphones.
I was done.
Okay. But so Lindsay was walking past Trump Tower, and you saw the people who were pro-Trump, and you saw the people who were anti-Trump. So did you have the grab my pussy versus the don't grab my pussy crowd?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. She
I told you it was lowbrow.
She covered her groin and just put her head down and went through the crowd.
Well, she's a very smart woman and hardworking.
Next time, just tell the damn joke.
No,
You're
was
getting too politically correct. Damn it!
I know. I can
PC for me, Aaron. What the hell is wrong with you?
I'm going to go to my college campus in my safe zone and talk to my professor, who's a more idiot than I am.
These pussy little kids they're raising. I gotta have a safe zone. He said something that offended me. Good.
Yes.
You need to be offended. You need to be shocked. Maybe you'll start paying attention. Stop complaining. Stop whining like a little bitch. See, again, the parents. You want to teach your kids? Teach yourself as well. Learn. Teach these kids. They don't need no safe zone. You need to learn how to talk shit and come back with a nice snappy comeback and worry about it on your own. You know what I mean? I understand sharing your feelings and opening up to our fellow brothers and sisters and trying to do all that. But you can't pussify us at the same time, because when a world war starts and we got to send these little pussies off to fight, guess what? We're not going to get the same result we got back in the day when you got beat by your parents and your dad didn't hug you and you were sad and a little depressed. Guess what? All those kids were able to go to war and win and come back. These little girls, these little kids, and I mean girls by like the boys are sissified.
Right, the bitchonification of the nation.
Okay? Aren't going to be able to go overseas and fight like men and fight like strong women and fight like the Americans that won the wars back in the day. Okay. And I guess it's a good thing that most of it's going to be through drones and bombing from off seas. And, you know, we'll just use the pawns of the people that live in the countries that were fighting the war as our ground troops instead of sending these weaklings that have brought up the last 15, 20 years. It's outrageous. And what we're raising today. In 5 years, when your kid's getting drafted or getting shipped off to war, I don't want to hear it. And guess what? If those are the kids we have to send, it doesn't bode well for the United States to win.
Absolutely not. You have an equation that just does not match up. You have an establishment, whether that's a Republican or Democrat. It doesn't. I'm just saying the government establishment and the media establishment beating the drums of war. All right, and making more of a problem in the mind of the American people and the people of the European Union, more of a problem in their mind that we need to go over and fix this issue, fix the problem that we caused. That we've created.
Right.
We
create the problem and go, we got to go in and fix it.
Right.
All right, Aaron. So here's what we got. This is what we got coming up in the next few weeks. We got Hillary winning easily, double-digit landslide, guaranteed market in the books, okay? We have the banks around the world about to collapse. And if you see anything about Deutsche Bank over in Germany, the biggest bank in all of Europe, collapsing, which we've been seeing. We're getting, if you watch any of the business channels, HSBC, damn it, Janet Yellen came out ahead of the Federal Reserve and said, this is something that we really need to watch. Germany came out and said, we will not help this bank if it fails. We're not going to give it any support. You're not going to get taxpayer money to stay afloat. If this bank goes, all the banks are going to go. It's going to be a chain reaction. It's going to be a huge hit to the stock market. It's going to be a huge hit to all this. Okay. And on top of that, we're going to roll into a major war. We're going to roll into a major war that's going to take place in the Middle East and in the South China Sea. And you watch. This is what's going to happen in these next few weeks to few months. It's all happening.
Absolutely.
It's all in the process of happening. It's set up. All we need is the next domino to tip. And I believe that domino is when Hillary finally becomes president. Because then the handoff will be successful between her or Obama and her. Because Obama will have to start messing some. He's already starting a war in Yemen. Okay, they're already using Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, I forgot to bring this up. Saudi Arabia just bought $1.2 billion worth of weapons from the United States. Oh, great. It's a good thing they're helping us in this Middle East war because that's exactly what they're doing, which goes hand in hand in why Obama vetoed the only bill he's ever vetoed, the 9/11 bill, where they can actually sue Saudi Arabia for 9/11 because we know they were part of it. And okay, he vetoed that bill, the only bill he's ever vetoed. That's the bill he vetoes?
Right, and there have been several others that he could have. We've talked about them in many past episodes, but it's funny that you bring that up because there was very little discussion and analysis. The only little soundbite that's been playing for the masses of asses to listen to, and I include myself in that, is that it would open the door for other countries to sue us, but there's no substance there. That has not been discussed anywhere. I've not seen, and again, I'm not privy to every single little news discussion that goes on, but I have tried to go out and find some sound bites, some video of a discussion regarding the details and the reason for vetoing that bill, and I just have not been able to find it. So if there are intelligent discussion about that topic, please leave them in the comments section or shoot us an email and we'll gladly put them on the Facebook page, or just send them over to the Facebook page, Generation Gap at facebook.com or facebook.com/Generation Gap. The bees, man. The bees. It's not going to matter when the bees are gone. Isn't it going to be like, that's going to be like, what was that? That was the premise for that science fiction movie last year. What the fuck was it? The Fifth Dimension, Interstellar. Wasn't that it? The bees died, and then the only thing they had was Monsanto corn to eat?
I didn't see that, but it sounds like once again the movies are predicting the future. Oh, gee, how? Well, wait, how come the movies and Hollywood and the government, how are they connected? And they put these movies out to kind of prep us for what's about to happen and what's coming up to fruition, and then eventually it comes to pass. Give me a break, okay? And on top of the bees,
Sarah Connor. Damn, Skynet, man, it's there. But no, just want to say real quick, Eric, if you know, I was in the right frame of mind. I was nice and relaxed. I put that movie on. I just wanted to see what it was about, and you might enjoy it. It's got a lot of there's a lot of subtleties there, but I think Christopher Nolan directed it, and he does do a good job in most of his movies. I think he was the guy behind Memento, that reverse movie that took place in the 90s. It gets you thinking a little bit, so I think you might enjoy it if you have a.
I'll take a look at it. But back to the bees real quick.
Yes.
Why are the bees dying? Oh, from chemicals like Roundup that we've been using around the world. And oh wait, what company owns Roundup?
Monsanto.
Oh yeah, Monsanto. Okay, so Monsanto, they have a product that they know kills off the bee population, but they also have a product that if, God forbid, the bees disappeared and we couldn't get food sources anymore, that they happen to have another product that could replace that and make everything okay. So, gee, I wonder. Let's not be dumb for a minute, people. Let's try and put two and two together. Okay, I wonder if maybe this giant chemical corporation that has something to do with the bees dying off, that has the cure-all for when the bees do eventually die off, maybe they foresaw this, and maybe this was all part of the plan from the beginning. I don't know, because now if we're dependent on GMOs, we're fully dependent on a huge corporation to be in charge of our entire food source.
Absolutely, and that corporation's only getting bigger because we discussed before. More recent news about Monsanto is that the Bayer Corporation, the people that make your aspirin, ladies and gentlemen, are putting out a $66 billion bid for Monsanto. And
Didn't they also used to make Agent Orange as well?
Yes. Yeah, that stuff that, just in case that person over there is not on fire enough, we're going to ensure that person's on fire. Agent Orange. Yeah, so you're going to see this huge multi-continental company now with Bayer Monsanto taking over not only all these different genetically modified foods, the pesticides that are being used to not really kill the pesticide, not really to kill the pests, but to kill the bees, the workers, the backbone of our agricultural system. And I don't think bees have been given enough credit. Honeybees are awesome. Killer bees, not so much, but honeybees are awesome. And
kill the bees on a swarm.
That's right.
Wu-Tang. Wu-Tang.
Only when the killer bees were cool was Wu-Tang. You're absolutely correct. But we're seeing now the most recent story, and I don't want to get into the weeds. I always intend my puns. I don't want to get into this too much, but Monsanto and Bayer Monsanto, as it's going to be called now, or soon to be, is now getting into the cannabis realm, the medical cannabis realm, and we're going to start seeing just a total control of everything agricultural by this company, just like you're seeing Nestle try to take over more and more water sources and control the water supply. We're going to have these companies control food, water, air, basically everything, and you're seeing this tightening of our natural resources by companies and groups that are worth billions of dollars because they're controlling these resources. And until we understand that as a community, as a society, and know that this is a reality, this is what's going on, and we don't take we take proactive changes, this is what's going to continue to just suffocate and control us as a lower middle, upper middle, even upper class. All right, just us as a society are going to be more and more controlled and more subdued by these few corporations that are taking our resources and in effect crippling our freedom and our way of life.
USA, and then you wonder how elections are bought and how candidates are made and how they're pre-chosen and how it's all set up and how all these people that are taking all this money in Congress to pass all these laws that are pro Monsanto and pro GMO.
And
Why are these other countries around the world not only saying no, but poor countries like Africa are receiving Monsanto seeds, and they'd rather starve than use these seeds?
Absolutely.
I mean, come on. And when you can't even have a topic because the media covers it, because they're Monsanto's buying commercials, so we can't have anything that any God forbid news report that may put them in a bad light or have people think. It's outrageous. It's set up from top to bottom and all around. And if you're not awake to that, if you're not even paying attention, or if you're not even starting to think about that after listening to the Generation Gap this week, then stop listening, because you're you know what? The new episodes of Walking Dead start Sunday, so go pay attention to that. And we're mid-football season, so go back to sleep. Not that you were ever awake. I love the line, George Carlin, they call it the American dream because you got to be able to sleep.
There you go. Love it. And it's interesting that you mentioned the NFL, because that was one of my not news topics I did want to bring up. And that is that the NFL, the ratings are getting lower and lower almost each and every week. Ratings are dipping for the NFL. So I'm not sure if it's that more people are focused on politics this year. I doubt it. But for some reason, and I haven't been able to determine a specific reason why, but the NFL ratings are dipping a bit. And it's just interesting to see that this huge juggernaut, this huge distraction, and we've talked about it many times. I mean, we love our football. We love our fantasy football. You and I talk about that both on the air and off the air. But it is a distraction. And I'm just interested to see how this is going to play out over the rest of the season, and if I can find out what's going on and why there is a lessened interest in football this season.
I think it's several reasons, and it sounds like every topic on every New York and Philadelphia sports talk station for the last 2 weeks. Oh my God, the NFL is not getting the ratings. Well, you know what? The NFL is not as good as it used to be. You change the rules. People thought it was fixed to begin with, especially bettors, all right, people that gamble. Now, with all the new rules, the refs are throwing a flag on every play, so they control the entire game. So, this guy had to go out there and make the pass, but all that ref's got to do is throw that flag, and that pass isn't incomplete. Time to move them back 15 yards. You know what I mean? So, I think people are seeing how it's controlled more. Yes.
Yeah, that's a great point. And whether people realize it or not, that's an excellent point, Eric, that they are seeing the control, more and more control. And if we can transfer that from the NFL to our everyday lives, to our food supply, to our water supply, to the way our government works, then maybe we'll affect some real change.
How come we still haven't fixed the water crisis in Flint?
Yeah.
These people are still drinking brown water. They're still getting thousands of cases of water from Nestle, thank you, to clothe and, to shower with, to drink with, to use to cook with. All right. This is a national emergency that should have been dealt with immediately. Here it is back behind the scenes, and nobody's talking about it. And it only got brought up because the mainstream media didn't bring it up. It only got brought up because Bernie Sanders brought it up. So Clinton had to comment on it because he brought it up. Right. Again, going back to when you're not bringing up topics and policies and issues and problems and how to fix them, they'd rather talk about grabbing pussies and distract you with Trump and what he's saying instead of focusing on the issues. There has been no issues talked in this election since Bernie Sanders has been out of it, and that goes hand in hand with Flint, Michigan. If this was New York, it would be in all the papers. It would be – matter of fact, it is in New York. It's in everywhere. There's lead in Philadelphia. There's high traces of lead in Newark, New York, all over the country. If they really looked into it, they would realize they have to completely rip up and replace the entire water infrastructure here in this country. But let's talk about Trump talking about grabbing pussy. Give me a break.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that. And this is something we continue to talk about, and we will continue to talk about it because the lamestream media is not. And that's our infrastructure. And that's our roadways, our sewer system, our waterworks, our electrical grid, our internet infrastructure. All of these things are vastly outdated. and we need to improve them and improve them fast. And we have the ability to, and we can do this great stimulus of America, get people working, train them for sustainable jobs. One thing that was brought up early on in this campaign, and I know you and I, we don't want to keep going to it, but it's just, it's a reality of this country right now. It's just something that just keeps, it's almost like ingrained in everyone's mind about the election and everything like that. But that was brought up earlier. I think it was Clinton. She mentioned something about coal miners in West Virginia, and she took a lot of slack for it. And she was not selling the idea of revolutionizing the infrastructure, changing jobs, retraining people. And if you're a person in a union or just been doing your third, second generation worker of said company, let's just say coal mining, for instance, because that's what I brought up, it's going to be very hard for someone to find another job that pays as well as that does. But if we change the way or change what our needs are and just realize what our needs are in this country of infrastructure, then that transition and that retraining of people can go a lot easier and can be done more so across the board for people who need to make a livable wage. I'm not saying like minimum wage or $12 or $15 an hour, but good paying jobs that are going to net somebody, $40, $50, $60, $70,000 a year. That's a good possible, foreseeable outcome, instead of sending money overseas, sending money to other countries, and not investing in America, not investing in the workers, the working class people.
The people.
All the people. I'm sorry that was a little disjointed. I had like a couple things come up on my computer, but I was trying to make the point that just, it's if we realize what our needs are, how to achieve those needs, it can be done. The money is there. It's just about being able to get our elected officials to do it and
to talk about it,
and too. To talk about it. Yeah,
not even
let's start talking about it.
It's crazy, man. I don't know. I'm whirly over here. We gave the people enough to think about for this week, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. And next week, I would like to get a little bit more into some health issues, definitely,
and more positive stuff too, because there's so much stuff that's being invented that's even out right now that's starting to get implemented into society that's going to change everything for the better. So as much as the old structure is still in control, and as much as everything's breaking down and falling apart, the future is here. Let's talk about it. Let's implement it. Let's make it happen, because it is happening. It's happening before our eyes.
Yeah, I think you and I just needed, with all of the negativity and all of just the
our negative
visceral
show.
Hatred, a little bit, but we just had to kind of vent. We had to get it out there. It's been a little while since we've actually talked about the down and dirty politics and just our frustrations, America's frustrations, the world's frustrations, human beings frustrated with the way these political systems, these government entities are continuing to be inefficient, ineffective, and only have their own self-interest and self-sustainability, their own aggrandizement.
Instead, they're just distracting the people, man. They got us fighting amongst each other. They got us thinking stupid things and fighting amongst each other instead of looking at the issues, bringing up the issues, saying, how come these people aren't talking about the issues?
Right.
They're trying to take us out like Harambe is what they're doing.
And that's a great
Remember
transition.
the gorilla?
Yeah, right? Yeah, that was and they won to blame the parents, blame the people for shooting. That's another story for another day, and hopefully next week we can get into some more positive news and some more health news, and just continue to try to set that alarm clock, wake America up, and keep pressing forward. Look forward to hearing your thoughts. Comment section of the YouTube video where this will be posted. We're going to put it up on our face page. Our Gmail is always there. And, you can always contact the Generation Gap. We are there, and we will listen. And we'll respond, too.
Yay. Negative show's over. I'm going to week. Maybe we'll get into some fantasy football next week, too. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? You know.
So because you mentioned Harambe, that's a great transition, and that'll play us out. Eric, as always, thank you very much for the information and just for the intelligent conversation. And we certainly did a bit better than those 24-hour news cable shows that just try to give you bites of information and more drama than actual facts.
Exactly. Keep asking questions, people.